As the state's leading property and casualty insurance trade association, the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance plays a crucial role in safeguarding Wisconsinites. Alliance members provide vital insurance coverage, ensuring financial protection for individuals, businesses, and communities across the state. In times of need, they act as a reliable resource, helping residents recover from unforeseen events. Ultimately, the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance and its members contribute to the resilience and well-being of Wisconsin families and businesses by offering essential protection and support. WisI video of the WisPolitics Madison Luncheon series at the Madison Club is made possible with sponsorship support from the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance.
Okay, we're going to get started, so if everybody can take their seats. So hello, welcome. This is the October version of the Madison Club series, brought to you by WisPolitics.com and State Affairs. If you're not familiar with State Affairs, they're a nonpartisan news network of sites like ours around the country, going from Massachusetts to California. So I invite you to, if you're a subscriber, you should know about them. If you're not a subscriber, you should become one. And if you're a subscriber, you should make sure you download the app, because the app is really good, and I think it helps you connect with everything in a very busy time. I want to thank our sponsors for this event series. Couldn't do it without you. Walmart, ARP Wisconsin, WC Energy Group, HB Strategies, American Family Insurance, and Xcel Energy. Also, a thank you to the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance, Andy. It's big time here because Andy is actually attending. Let's hear it for Andy Franken. Okay, and with the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance sponsors the Wisconsin Eye video of these events. And so thank you to Wisconsin Eye as well. Let's give them a round of applause. We have some upcoming events. Tentatively, I'm just going to warn you that on November 13th, we have Senator Baldwin scheduled, but the government shutdown may interfere, but we'll advise you accordingly in advance of November 13th. But put it on your calendars. Okay, now I'm going to introduce our special guest. Please welcome Chief Justice Jill Karofsky. You have to use the mic and use the mic. Now you have to shake my hand. Okay. This is how you begin every court session, right?
Yes. I can't get over your notes, Jeff. How do you read that?
Well, only I can read them.
Yeah.
That's. Well, you were trying to read my notes so you know all these special questions I'm going to ask you. Okay, so let's talk about what. I don't even know why we're doing this. I'm kidding. Let's set the parameters, because there's certain things that you won't answer. So why don't you just give a general explanation for what you're going to avoid answering?
Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here this afternoon.
Sure.
And thank all of you for attending. I'm very happy to be here. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. The Code of Judicial Ethics prevents me from answering questions about any matter that is currently before the court or any issue or matter that might come before the court. So I will try to answer all your questions, but if it's something that lands in those two categories, I will just politely decline, because I don't want to be in violation of the Code of Ethics, since I took an oath, and I'm not going to do that.
Okay, so this will be like book club. I'll ask you about your favorite books and stuff like that.
Well, this is bring it on.
Okay, so you told me a story I didn't even know. Your pet dog broke your leg earlier this year. So I don't know. We don't have any video of it, unfortunately. But anyway, you're walking just fine. But I mean, tell us a little bit about that, because you had to be careful with your judicial robe so you could crutch up to the.
Sure.
to your place.
Yeah, so I have a 5-year-old golden retriever named Lucky, And I had her out in the woods behind my house. She was off leash, and she just came running at me full steam with her head down, landed on my shin bone and broke and displaced it in the middle of August. My first oral argument presiding over the Wisconsin Supreme Court was the first week of September. So, and I know there are some people in this room who were at some of the early oral arguments. The deal that I made with my doctor is that I could attend the oral arguments, but since I was on crutches, I couldn't wear my robe in and out of the hearing room. So I had to crutch in the hearing room without my robe on, hand my crutches to Justice Rebecca Bradley, who very graciously sits to my left, very graciously took them. Someone had to help me put my robe on, and then I had to sit down and start the proceedings. So luckily it healed, and I have been telling all my friends that I plan to run a marathon by sometime this spring.
All right, let's see. And you're targeting Grandma's Marathon in Duluth.
Hopefully.
So if anybody is going...
I didn't get in, so if anyone got in and doesn't want to do Grandma's, will you let me know, because I want to buy your number.
All right, there you have it. Okay, I'm going to talk about something in the news, and this is serious business because it affects you personally. So there is a case this week that came to light about somebody who has been allegedly stalking you, and that case is now in the system. But I wanted to ask you about that in relation to security for justices and judges. So I think the court in general has been pushing for that. There was a budget proposal on that. Joint Finance Committee rejected the idea of a Supreme Court police force, I think is what the co-chair said. So I don't know, how do you talk about this now, because you're a victim?
I'll start with that. I spent my entire career before I took the bench in Dane County in 2017 protecting the rights of crime victims and witnesses in this state. So this is an issue that I have always been fighting for. I think every single person who comes in contact with the court system, every victim, every witness, every juror, every court reporter, every interpreter, every bailiff, every judge, every justice, any member of the public who comes into a courtroom, every single person who comes in contact with the Wisconsin state court system deserves to be safe and secure when they are engaging with that system. We cannot have a system of justice where people walk into courtrooms afraid for their own safety. And so it is incumbent on all of us to do whatever we can to make sure that those are places of safety for people. We currently have 4 members, and there are a couple of them in the room actually in the back. We currently have 4 members from the Capitol Police Department who provide security for judges and justices throughout the state of Wisconsin. 4 people. They make sure that they coordinate and they work very, very well with the local police agencies. We have funding for those 4 officers, the court system does, through August of 2026. I have worked with the governor's office. I have worked with the legislature. I have worked with members from the legislature on both sides of the aisle. And I'm here to tell you that I do believe this is an issue that transcends partisan politics. I do think that we will be able to get continued funding for those positions through the biennium so that we continue to have security. But it is an issue that has always been near and dear to my heart. It is an issue that I have fought for my entire career, and I'm going to continue to make sure that when any person walks into a courtroom in this state, that they are safe.
Okay, so what are the holes in the current system that need to be filled?
Well, right now, we only have funding for those 4 positions until the end of August of 2026. So it's a pretty big hole to have 0 security from the end of August 2026 until I don't know when. And an enormous hole will be created at that point.
Okay, so the governor had a proposal that I think the court writ large endorsed for let's let's see if I got this right. Now I can't read my own notes. It's the Office of the Marshals of the Supreme Court.
I can't help you.
Yes. So did you support that idea?
Yes. So when that proposal came out, all members of the court supported that. In the interim, we had the opportunity. In the interim, the 4 Capitol Police officers who are now helping us, those 4 positions became available to us. And since that proposal, we have all been able to see how it works with the 4 officers coordinating with local jurisdictions, and it has been working very, very well.
Okay. So your proposal now, or your wish now, is to continue with what you have now with the Court Protection Unit and the 4 officers cooperating with local authorities.
Yes, that is the basement.
Okay.
Yes, and I would hope that after that we would be able to do many, many things throughout the state to enhance security in every courthouse and every courtroom in the state. Okay,
are judges in danger, circuit court judges, are they in danger every day of something happening? Do you think the threat is more than it used to be?
Jeff, I don't know how you could possibly look at what is going on in the United States today and come to any other than conclusion other than political violence is on the rise. So yes.
Okay, so do you, like I started off with here, alleged stalker was confronting you. Do you and your fellow justices feel in danger?
The threats to us have increased. I got on the court in 2020, and I would say that they have continued. They started in 2020, at least. That's when I started to notice them. And I think that a lot of them happened in the wake of the 2020 election, and they have continued. We get many, many threats, yes. I would say that in the past few weeks, I have talked to 3 or 4 of my colleagues about specific threats. And that's on the Supreme Court. I've also talked to many circuit court judges who are also facing threats.
Okay, so what does that do to, how does that affect a judge or justice's mindset in writing opinions, or does it?
I think that this is a time in our nation's history where we have to be brave and we have to be courageous and we have to do the right thing despite the threats that are coming at us.
I guess I'm asking, do you think some judges are going to be careful about taking writing a certain opinion because they might be in danger?
I think we have elected, I know a lot of the judges in the state. I can't speak for all of them, but I would say as a rule that judges are trained to follow the rule of law in the state, and for the most part, they make their decisions based on what the law says. But it doesn't mean that that's always easy.
Okay, then there's the larger issue. You talked about anybody who goes into a courtroom. So you're also talking about spectators and alleged victims and alleged perpetrators in the court room itself. So there's a particular Milwaukee. David Crowley, the county executive, has talked about the need to update the court facilities. And I'm just wondering how widespread that is. The Milwaukee one has been fairly laid out about it being a dangerous place sometimes because of the way the facility, it's an older facility. Is that something that the court system in general around the state needs to take a look at?
So the 4 officers that we have that work for the Capitol Police, what they do is they will go out to local jurisdictions. They will go to places like Milwaukee. They will go to Wausau. They will go to La Crosse. They will go to Barron County. And they will do an assessment of the courthouses in those places, and they will talk to the local officials, and they will work with the sheriff's departments there, and they will tell them all how they can beef up security. They also will go to individual judges' houses and explain to them the ways that they can enhance security at their residence, and they do all of that as well, working with local law enforcement. Okay, so now I want to pivot here a little bit to broader goals. When you're the Chief Justice, you're running the whole court system. Okay, and not just the Supreme Court. So what are your goals? You just got this job on July 1. What are your goals for changing or improving the court system in general? Yeah, I think at times like this, tumultuous times like this, people look to the court system to protect their rights and to protect their liberties and to protect their freedoms. And I think in order for that to happen, we need to have a court system that is based on legitimacy. And the way that you make a court system legitimate is that you have decisions handed down by courts based on the rule of law, and you treat everyone who comes before you with fairness and dignity and respect and empathy. So that is my overarching view of the court system. And you're right, people don't understand everything that the court system does. A lot of people don't understand that the Supreme Court is responsible for overseeing an entire branch of government. Municipal court judges, circuit court judges, judges on the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court justices. We're responsible for training all of those judges and justices. And those people don't work in silos, right? They work with interpreters, and they work with court reporters. We are responsible for who becomes an attorney in this state through the Board of Bar Examiners. We are responsible for lawyer discipline through the Office of Lawyer Regulation. We are responsible for judicial discipline through the Judicial Commission. We're responsible for making sure that the state law library, the Lavinia Goodell State Law Library and the two satellites in Madison and Milwaukee, that they are available so that people can do research and that they can get help with their legal questions. And I'm going to say this like Ann Walsh Bradley would. The crown jewel, for those of you who can imagine her saying this, I can see you smiling, the crown jewel of the Wisconsin state court system is CCAP, the Circuit Court Access Program. With a phone or a computer, you can see what is happening in almost any courtroom in the state. Accessibility, transparency, accountability. I look at all of those things that we are responsible for, and I smile. I smile at the opportunity to be able to enhance, to be able to improve upon, to be able to expand all of those areas of the court system so that the system will work better for the people of the state of Wisconsin.
So now I want to talk about the stuff that happens when you're not in session. So court collegiality, let's see, that has not always been a term that applied to the state Supreme Court here in this state, okay? There's been some rather dramatic moments. You weren't there.
No, I was not.
Okay, but since you mentioned Ann Walsh Bradley, so anyway, and even before that, you know, when Shirley Abramson, she clashed with people who were actually not necessarily polar opposites in terms of political philosophy either. So there's always been clashes of personalities. So how is the court getting along?
Let me start out by saying this. Jeff, if you picked up your phone and you texted 6 of your friends and you were going to try
I don't have 6
yeah,
friends.
all right. Let's just... Okay. Sometimes we assume things in the law, even though we know they may not be true. Assume you have 6 friends. And you were going to try to figure out when and where you were going to go to dinner. It would take a while. Okay? Now imagine that you're taking those 7 people and you're putting them in a room and you are asking them to decide the toughest issues of the day. The issues that haven't been able to be decided clearly by a court below, and you're putting them in a room to do it. It's a difficult task. I will tell you what I see. I see 7 people who show up for oral argument ready to do the work. I will tell you that I do not want to be unprepared for oral argument because I know that all 6 of my colleagues are going to be ready to go on oral argument day. It makes me make sure that I am a better prepared justice. I see 7 people engaged in asking questions. I see 7 people when we get to swear in new lawyers at the events, at the swearing-in ceremony. I see people showing up and generally being happy to watch new lawyers pass through those doors. I see justices who recently went to dinner together. We have shown up at, one justice got married recently, and many of us were there. We've shown up at family funerals together. We Venmo each other. Some of us. Some still write checks. A majority Venmo.
That may be the lead out of this conversation so far.
They'll all stop Venmoing.
Okay, so all right, you did. So in a couple words, you're all getting along, or?
So on a couple of words, I'm going to push back on that. it would be really weird for us to be in a room debating the toughest issues of the day and not do so and feel something about those. But for the most part, we're leaving those feelings in our opinions. I will tell you that I personally have a very collegial relationship with every single member of that court.
Okay, so the court now is 4-3, but not all decisions are 4-3. In fact, there have been some big decisions that have been near unanimous or unanimous. I think some of us were going like, oh, wow, what's going on? So what's going on? Are you lobbying people? Hey, come on, we can't just do 4-3 decisions. Come on, I need another one here.
No, I think everyone is very independently minded. I think there's a narrative out there that every decision that this court hands down is going to be 4-3. And that's just not what the evidence shows. If you look at the decisions that we have issued the last 2 years, you will find that most of our decisions, we are far less likely to be 4-3 than we are to be 7-0 or 6-1 or 5-2. And so I think that the evidence just doesn't bear out what that narrative is.
Well, I didn't say, I'm saying that they're not all 4-3, but I mean, but things did change when the liberal contingent took over.
Look, I think this is what the voters of Wisconsin wanted. The vote, if you look at Justice Rebecca Dallett's election in 2018, my election in 2020, Justice Protasewicz's election in 2023, Justice Crawford's election in 2025, we all won by more than 10 points. The Wisconsin electorate is intelligent. They are informed. And I think what they saw was a court that was going too far to rubber stamping a right-wing agenda, and they wanted a court that was going to base decisions on the rule of law. And that is what they have.
Okay, so there's some strong words there. Rubber stamp. So your view is that the court, before you got there, was rubber stamping conservative proposals and policy in the legislature and from the governor?
I ran an election against someone. I pressed him, and at every every debate that we went to, the moderator pressed him for one example of one time when he did not find in favor of Governor Walker or the Republican legislature or the right-wing special interest, and he could not come up with one example. I find it impossible to believe that those groups were always on the right side, meaning the correct side of the law.
Okay, and so if you were asked that now, what would you respond? Where do you differ from your background, I guess?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
What decision what decision on the court have you made that is contrary, I guess, to your liberal label?
Well, I can think of a couple examples. The first example that comes to mind is the case that we issued at the end of last term regarding the Department of Public Instruction. But I will tell you that there are often times when I sit on the court when I have to make a decision that is not the decision I want to make. And let me give you another example. We had a case a couple of years ago where an individual who had been convicted of a crime of domestic violence went and applied for a concealed carry weapon. Having spent decades advocating for domestic violence victims, I know that one of the most dangerous things for a domestic violence victim is for the perpetrator to have a firearm. But this perpetrator was convicted of a crime of disorderly conduct. And the question was, under federal law, did that qualify for a crime, a disqualifying crime under the concealed carry law? And I read the law, and again and again and again, and I didn't sleep for a couple weeks. And in the end, I had to follow the law. And I had to say this individual under Wisconsin law and under the federal law is allowed to get a firearm, allowed to have a carry conceal permit. I wrote a dissent, and I in that dissent I explained to the legislature how they could close this loophole. But no, there are times when I definitely have had to rule against a decision. I've had to rule a way that I did not want to.
Okay, so let's talk about Okay, the court, you listed all the people who have won election in double digits. They're all women. And so Brian Hagedorn is the lone man on the court. And I guess I'm wondering what kind of statement is that about, I guess, the electorate, or how the court does it? Should the gender imbalance on the court, does that make a difference, or is that a good thing?
You know, if you walk into the Supreme Court hearing room, it's a gorgeous room, isn't it? It's museum quality. And there are 4 huge murals up in the Supreme Court. And if you look at them in order of history, the one on the back wall that I get to see when I'm on the bench is from Roman times. And it's Caesar Augustus, and he's lying on a couch, and he's actually being the defense attorney for a soldier who fought for him. And that shows, the murals all show the development of law in Wisconsin, right? And we get a lot from the Romans, who were some of the first to write down their laws. And the second mural, which if you're facing the court, is to your left, but it's to my right, is the signing of the Magna Carta. And the one behind us is the signing of the the United States Constitution. And the one on the wall to my left or your right is a trial during territorial times. It's Judge Doty presiding over the trial of Chief Oshkosh of the Menominee tribe. You know what you don't see in any of those murals, Jeff?
Yeah.
What?
A man.
A woman. Right.
Sorry. Right.
It is almost as if in the history of humankind, the history of America, the history of Wisconsin, women were non-existent. So do I think that there is a problem with 6 of the 7 members of the Wisconsin Supreme Court being female? No.
See, that was not a setup either. So you got your applause line. That was not even a setup. I'm happy to be your straight man here. Okay. So Hagedorn, though, has really, I'm not reading all the opinions, but just watching, how this has worked, he's often been a swing vote. And I think you and he have built some sort of alliance, if you will, or at least on some of these issues. Can you talk about that?
This is what I'll say. I started on the court in 2020. It was during COVID. I never met with my colleagues in the same room. We were all on Zoom. It was just an absolutely bizarre way to start a new job. It was really a bizarre way to start a job where interacting with 6 other people was so important. And after I struggled that first year a lot. I mean, I struggled. It was COVID. It was a brand new job. It was tough. But one of the things I struggled with was, after we have an oral argument, the 7 of us, and only the 7 of us, go into a conference room. And we have specific seating in that room, and the junior justice is closest to the door. And we sort of have a running joke, because the junior justice, who right now is Justice Crawford, is all supposed to open the door when someone needs something. Someone's always forgetting their glasses, this, me included, right? Or they need a cup of coffee, or they bring the wrong file in. And the junior justice is on the steepest part of the learning curve, so they always forget to open the door. So it's just this. I got a grade of D from Justice Rogensack, and I felt really bad about it, but now I realize I wasn't doing so poorly, because neither Justice Protasewicz or Justice Crawford are frankly doing much better than I did when it comes to opening the door. But this is the point I'm trying to make, is that with my 6 other justices in the room, my 6 other colleagues, I didn't know what my job was, and that might sound really weird. But I didn't know if my job in that room was to be an advocate. Was I supposed to advocate for my position and try to persuade people to see things the way I did it? Or was I supposed to do what I did in the circuit court? Was I supposed to look at the law and apply the facts and just explain how I saw the case and then drop the mic and leave? Or was it supposed to be like 12 Angry Men? Was I supposed to be persuaded by them, by one of my colleagues, so I would see the case the way they did? And I just couldn't figure it out. And so between the summer between my first and second year on the court, I read some books on group dynamics. I read some books on negotiation, and suddenly I realized that my job, very simply, was to be curious. I don't have to be the smartest person in that room, but I have to be the most curious. It's amazing if you think about it. We are all reading the same law. There's so many redundancies on the Supreme Court. Someone with an MBA would walk in there and just shake their head. You have 7 justices and our staff all reading the same cases, all reading the same briefs, all looking at the same constitutional provisions, all looking at the same statutes. I can look at the exact same case that one of my colleagues does, but I will come out over here and they will come out over there. And instead of that being frustrating to me, I just thought, I'm really, really interesting. And so I started to ask different questions when we got together in conference because I wanted to understand how that happened. So I would say, I understand how you got from point A to point B, but how did you get from point B to point C? Can I push back on that? Will you explain that a little further to me? And treating my job that way, treating conference that way, changed my relationship with every single colleague on the court. And that continues to today. And that includes Justice Hagedorn. He is very, very thoughtful. He is really, really prepared. He loves history. And so when I can ask him, and he's had different job experiences than I have, right? I mean, his experience as a governor's legal counsel is something I always want to hear more about. I always want to draw out more information from him. And so that is the way I approach my relationship with him, and that's the way I approach my relationship with every member of the court.
Okay, this comes up, we're on the verge of another Supreme Court election. We've had quite a string going. Do you have a feeling, you were elected to a 10-year term, and that's what the justices are elected to in Wisconsin. Do you have a feeling after you've been elected and been on the court now and Chief Justice whether Supreme Court judges here should be elected or appointed?
I feel really strongly that we should be elected. It's been in our Constitution since our state was founded in 1848. I think it makes us accountable to the people who we serve. We're not accountable to some politicians. We're not accountable to some political. We're not accountable to some elite. We're not accountable to anyone except the people who go to the ballot box and they vote. I think it makes us come to events like this. I think it's important for transparency. I think getting around the state and talking to people about what they think the court does, what the improvements that they would like to see, how the court has impacted them. I think us having to make the case for why we should be elected or why we should stay in office is very, very valuable and important.
Okay, but these elections have become totally partisanized and spending, whatever the amount was, last time we counted it tens of millions of dollars, for a state Supreme Court seat. Does that sound right to you?
Look, I don't think anybody likes the amount of money that is being spent in these elections. But let's trace this all the way back to where it started, to be fair. It started in 2010. It started with the United States Supreme Court decision in Citizens United, which gave corporations the green light to buy influence in elections. And then it was compounded in 2015 when Governor Walker signed into law a provision that allowed for unlimited contributions to political parties. And now we're at today. So in order to fix the problem, we need to go back to the 2010 U.S. Supreme Court decision. They need to undo Citizens United. It was the wrong decision to make.
Okay. And that's not prejudging a case? What if that case a version of that came out to the...
It was going to go back to the U.S. Jeff, if I get on the U.S. Supreme Court, that's a problem that I'm willing to deal with at that time.
This is your show. I'm just feeding you the questions here. All right. Should justices endorse? Because what if you endorse and then the person you didn't endorse gets on the court? How's that going to work? I mean, the people you've endorsed so far have won, so you're on a lucky streak. But I mean, what if it doesn't turn out that way?
I serve on a court. When I won my election in 2020, 4 members of the court not only didn't endorse me, but they took out editorials at different times during the campaign saying I was unfit to serve. If there's one thing I know, I was much more fit than my opponent. And I was able to sit in a room and to break things down with them and to be collegial and to do the job that we have to do. I endorse candidates when I have seen them work, when I know what their history is, when I have a good idea of what kind of justice that they will be. I don't do it flippantly. I don't do it without a careful analysis. I don't do it without really thinking about it. But I think because of the positions I have been in, I have been able to see many of these people do their job. And I think that there's nothing wrong with me saying, look, I've seen this person at work. I've seen them be able to accomplish what they need to do, and I've seen them do a good job at it.
Okay, before we go to audience questions, I want to ask you about the U.S. Supreme Court. So there's quite a bit of controversy, not because just of what the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court is deciding, but how they're deciding it. Some judges are balking at, the shadow docket. So what's your viewpoint as Chief Justice here in Wisconsin about how the U.S. Supreme Court is doing things?
I'll just speak very briefly about the shadow docket. The problem becomes, and it goes back to what I was saying at the top, the legitimacy of the courts and the court system is really, really important, especially right now. And the biggest problem I see with the shadow docket is that the opinions are not laid out. If you read other Supreme Court opinions, and ours too, some might argue they're a little long, but we lay out our reasoning and we lay out our analysis, and that is, I would say to you, almost more important than the bottom line. It's funny. I'm going to point you out, Eric. Eric McLeod and I were just having a conversation because Judge O'Brien is in the room, and Judge O'Brien served in Dane County Circuit Court, and I always thought about her. She also mentored me when I got to the court in 2017. And Eric and I agreed on this. Judge O, it didn't matter how you ruled, and you ruled against me plenty. But I always knew what your analysis was. I could always follow it. You always articulated it. And even when I lost, I could walk out of the courtroom with an understanding of why that is. You don't get that with the shadow docket. You just get a few words in an order, and that's it. And that's really, really difficult. It's difficult. People don't know they don't know what the law is. They don't know what the analysis is, and it's very, very tricky.
So what can anybody do about it? They're the U.S. Supreme Court.
I'm not sure at this point. It's a good question.
Internally there is obviously dispute, but those people are being overruled.
Yes.
Okay. Suddenly, there's...
Is it time for audience questions?
I guess it is. We're throwing it to the audience. I've run out of questions, and there's not much of an answer. All right, let's go. Who wants to ask a question? Right here. You shout it out.
Yes, will the Supreme Court be looking at establishing a recusal rule?
The question is, will the Supreme Court be looking at establishing a recusal rule? It's hard to say.
A good question. And recusal, of course, is what we call it when a judge might has a conflict of interest, or it might appear that a judge has a conflict of interest on a case, and therefore that judge should not sit on the case. And the question is whether or not the court is going to look at a recusal rule. And my answer to you is yes. There wasn't much I could do about this before I was chief, but I am now chief, and I've been chief for a few months. And what we need to do is we need to have an open hearing, a transparent hearing. We need to bring people into the Supreme Court hearing room, and we need to hear about what kind of rule and what kind of parameters on a rule people think that we should have. And I'm committed to doing that.
So the rule is what now? What is it?
Yeah.
How does it work now?
Right now, the rule was, so just to go back to 2016, there was a rule that was introduced by some retired judges, and again, I'm just going to pull a seat up here for Judge O'Brien. Judge O'Brien was part of that. And they didn't even get a hearing. In 2016, the Supreme Court did not even hold a hearing. Right now, the rule is if a justice or a judge thinks they have a conflict, they should get off the case.
Right. So there's not a rule. Okay, Jimmy? Okay, so the question is about open records and whether the court can address from on high the hurdles for open records requests.
So we had a case 2 years ago, I think, Benuelos, that had to do with some electronic records, electronic medical records. I want to be careful and not talk too much about it because these cases could come in front of us. But you asked about individual cases. That is the way our work comes to us, is through an individual case. And then we set out what the law is so it can be applied in other situations and other circumstances.
So, sorry, no directive from on high. Okay, right over here.
I don't think that's what I said.
File brief. Okay, I'm going to try to summarize that. So what about federalism and the stresses on federalism, and how can the state judiciary handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is to look at the Wisconsin Constitution, right? I mean, every state has its own constitution. Our constitution is it's actually one of the oldest constitutions in the country. It's been amended over 150 times. We haven't had a constitutional convention since 1848. And I think some of the ways, I think we are seeing different types of cases than we have before. Some of that is because the United States Supreme Court has decided that they're not going to rule on cases like abortion or redistricting. And I think looking to the Constitution, looking to the Wisconsin Constitution and the provisions in the Wisconsin Constitution, and which is more robust than the federal Constitution and provides more rights than the federal Constitution, and see how that can be applied. I think we're going to see more cases like that. I hope we see more cases like that. I know a couple of my colleagues are working on some writing to, I think they're calling them love letters to lawyers, to encourage them to make those arguments more. But I think that is definitely going to be the wave of the future. I also think about this State Democracy Research Initiative at the University of Wisconsin Law School, who I think has done a really, really great job about promoting the importance of state courts and state constitutions.
Can you elaborate on the love letter thing? What is it? What's going on there?
So I think that, thank you. I think in some states they have had very robust litigation regarding their state constitutions. We haven't had that as much in Wisconsin. And in some states they have really reached out to members of the bar and asked them, that is, Supreme Courts have reached out either by writing articles or saying things in their opinions like, we really wish that you had argued a state constitutional provision in this case. We hope that you will do so in the future. And so doing things like that, saying, there might be other angles that we haven't looked at here, but it's up to the litigants to bring those issues to us. If someone doesn't argue a provision of the state constitution in a case, we're not just going to pull that provision out of the Constitution and insert it in a case. So it really is encouraging members of the bar to bring these arguments forward to us so that we can develop our state constitutional jurisprudence more than we have.
So you're encouraging people to do this? You are?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the issues, Justice, is weighing in on Evers versus Markland 2.0. Someone across the street does some lobbying work, trying to figure out what rulemaking looks like moving forward. And in that decision, you based it on bicameralism and providing direction
Okay, so, all right. So Sean's asking about the Mark Lyon decision on rulemaking, and yes, caused quite a stir at the Capitol, and he's asking whether there's a roadmap for a legislative solution.
Yeah, so just by way of background, the decision had to deal with rulemaking, and it was after the rulemaking process had completed, and the legislature had done its work, and the executive had done its work, and then there was another review by a legislative committee that could basically put rules, could freeze rules, put them on ice for an indefinite period of time. And the ruling in that, the opinion in that case, which I authored, said that that was unconstitutional because it had the effect of law, but it violated the bicameral presentment provisions of the Wisconsin Constitution.
It's like radio silence. Sometimes they fill the airtime. Okay.
He said thank you.
Is that good enough, Sean? All right. All right. Other questions out there? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about the Court of Appeals. I think from the practitioner's perspective, and I'm sure that works so carefully, it's maybe understaffed. Caseload is huge. Time of decision is quite long. Do you share that assessment, and what, if anything,
Yeah,
So the Court of Appeals is understaffed and the process takes too long. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it's a good question, Colin. I will say that in general, we are understaffed across the board in the court system, but the Court of Appeals definitely is. We have been working with the judges on the Court of Appeals and the chief staff attorney on the Court of Appeals, and we have we found some solutions, and we'll continue to work with them. But it's something that we are definitely monitoring and that I'm aware of, and it's hard, right? Because justice delayed is justice denied, and no one should have to wait a long time for a decision. And so we're working on solutions. We have some. We've added some more staff. But yes, he's making the money sign. We could always use more money. There's no doubt about it. Yes.
Terry, go ahead. Do you see ways to improve CCAP, or is it working okay? You mentioned it before as a great transparency tool.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're working with technology, there are ways to improve it. I met with some members of the media on Monday, and they would like to be able to get on CCAP and to be able to actually see more of the documents that have been filed, which I understand, like PACER, which is what they have in the federal system. So we are always looking for ways to enhance and expand something like CCAP. As I said at the top, it really is the crown jewel of the court system because of the accessibility that it allows people to have throughout the entire state. I rely on it heavily.
Okay. Okay, the court system in general do better with people who are mental health issues, or? Okay, how can you wrestle with all those issues in the criminal justice system?
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can do a lot. I mean, I think for one, the Supreme Court and the court system is part of the Criminal Justice Coalition, which includes members from the Public Defender's Office and the DA's office and the court system to look holistically about what is going on in the criminal justice system. I share your concerns, Kelly, with the overburdened criminal justice system. I think two things come to mind directly, but there is obviously more to do. One is we got to figure out what we're going to do about the attorney crisis. We have a crisis in the state when it comes to attorney recruitment and attorney retention. And especially in rural areas, we do not have enough attorneys, and it is criminal defendants who are being harmed the most because they are being forced to stay in jail far too long. It is a real concern. When Annette Ziegler was Chief Justice, she started a committee, an attorney retention committee. We're continuing the work of that committee. Justice Hagedorn actually is heading that up. One of the things that I'm working very, very hard on is to make it easier for people who take a bar exam outside this state to be able to transfer their score in, so that it might help us pick up lawyers around the border, but if you appeared by Zoom, you could even be a lawyer in a state that doesn't border Wisconsin. I think it's not going to totally fix the problem, but it will do something to help. I think we also, and I know you and I have had many conversations about the criminal justice system, I think we need to do whatever we can to expand the problem-solving courts. We need more mental health courts. We need more OWI courts. We need more drug courts. We need more veterans courts. We need more health and wellness courts, which is something that the tribal courts do. We need more of those specialty courts, and we need to figure out more ways to promote those across the entire state. But I share your concern, and I want to continue to work on those problems with you and with Adam.
Right.
and with others.
Kelly needs to be on the committee. All right, over here. So this comes from a school board member, right? Yeah. Okay. Does that tell you everything you need to know? So can you counsel school boards on how to get along? Please do. She wants some pointers.
You want me? I can't. Yeah, no, I have to write it. It's funny. I've thought about doing it. I haven't had the time. Look, I think it just comes down to understanding that every person we interact with throughout the day, we should just treat them with kindness and respect. It really, in some ways, is that simple. I don't think that my job is to try to always change the minds of everyone I come in contact with. My job isn't to do that with my colleagues. I'm certainly not going to win every argument in my house. So I just try to reason to understand where people are coming from. I don't have to agree with them. I just need to understand.
All right. Well, I think we've come to understand your philosophy better. Thank you, Chief Justice Joe Karofsky. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to our sponsors, Walmart, ARP Wisconsin, WC Energy Group, HB Strategies, American Family Insurance, XL Energy, and the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance and Wisconsin Eye. Thanks, everybody, and we hope to see you on November 13th, and we'll keep you informed about the government shutdown. All right. Bye-bye.
As the state's leading property and casualty insurance trade association, the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance plays a crucial role in safeguarding Wisconsinites. Alliance members provide vital insurance coverage, ensuring financial protection for individuals, businesses, and communities across the state. In times of need, they act as a reliable resource, helping residents recover from unforeseen events. Ultimately, the Wisconsin Insurance Alliance and its members contribute to the resilience and well-being of Wisconsin families and businesses by offering essential protection and support. You have been watching a production of Wisconsin Eye, your unfiltered window into legislative deliberations and public policy programming, where our mission is to provide Wisconsinites an opportunity to access the legislative process and connect with conversations that inform our citizenry. Please consider supporting our mission, and thank you for watching. Wisconsin Eye, policy made public.